Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Gilbert.
So where are we here today?
We're actually in Falconer Township, which borders the municipality of West Nipissing and French River in Northern Ontario.
All right, so is this your property or are you in partnership with someone else?
We're actually on Crown land, which is rented from the Crown. We've been making maple syrup here since the family since 1950. Generations before that was the Beaulieu family since 1928.
Wow.
Yeah, we run this operation with myself and my wife, and we have help from longtime friends and relatives. My brother-in-law Michel and sister Louise are active in their retirement, and they help us make syrup here.
Oh, well, that's nice that you get all that help.
If you need something done, find a busy person.
All right, so I guess you're going to show me your operation now.
We'll take you around and we'll show you what we go through in a day.
Wow, there's a lot of firewood here.
You need firewood to make syrup.
You need firewood.
So you joined us at this time. We're just completing a pan change. We finished last night. We made 2 batches of syrup. And every morning when I'll start up, I'll actually start with a fresh set of pans for my finishing pans on the front stove. Pans are changed and I'm just going to pump my concentrate back in. And once the reverse osmosis catches up to the 2 tanks of sap that we collected yesterday, we will process that throughout the day.
Okay, so yeah, I see a lot of stainless steel in here. I'm sure that's not cheap.
No, there's a cost of producing food, and everything has to be food grade.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that a little bit.
I'm sure
selling water for 16 years.
I'm sure you are.
So, are you going to show me the reverse? You start with the sap with the reverse osmosis?
Yeah, we certainly will. We're just going to get this initiated here.
Okay.
I'm just going to put my probe in here, in my pans. Before I do that.
Wow, that's a lot of stainless steel.
And it's all food grade 304 stainless. And anybody that's familiar with working with maple knows that as soon as you boil sap, you produce a lot of scale and niter. So every morning when we start up, all the instruments have to be descaled.
So it's a little bit when people boil hard water, it makes a scale.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's funny, you can filter sap 20 times and it'll still do it. It's a mineral.
There'll still be mineral left, eh?
Mineralization occurs just when it's actually transformed into syrup.
Okay.
Yeah. We need to set the proper depth so that it doesn't go too close to the bottom of the pan.
Oh, so what? That's a sensor? Or?
Yeah, there's one in each of our finishing pans. And once we start boiling here, we'll have a constant reading of the temperatures of the concentrate as it's actually going through the process.
Oh, so that's how you know when to stop boiling.
Yeah, and it's actually a continuous boil. Where syrup will actually get continuously poured off as it's ready. When it reaches the desired temperature, there's an auto draw off or a thermal regulator that will actually activate and let the thick or the hot syrup go through until the temperature goes down, and then it shuts off again. So that you're always pretty well with a consistent product that's always like the same density.
Okay, so this whole machine here is your boiler.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that the water, before it goes into this machine, it goes through the reverse osmosis first.
Yes, we'll go show you that right now.
And that is to maximize the mineral content
of the sap.
Of the sap, so that you don't waste so much energy boiling the water.
Yeah. If we would not have a reverse osmosis system, you would need an evaporator 3 times this size and a woodshed 3 times that size, and you'd still be out of hours.
So you would burn 3 times more wood.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So here it's just a feed pump and a pressure pump, and you pressurize these canisters over here, and they've got a very dense membrane, which lets the pure water go through, but not the sugars and minerals. You can adjust your sugar content just by your pressure valve. So right now we're actually sending 12 gallons outside, and we're keeping 5 gallons of concentrate. At 12 and 5, we're doing about 72% draw. So we're taking sap that yesterday was 2.8% sugar content, and we're going to take it to about an 8.5, just under 9.
Okay, we're back outside the reverse osmosis room. It was very noisy in there, so we're going to talk outside the room. So I just want to mention the reverse osmosis. What Dan is doing, he's got the concentrate water and the permeate water. So for him, the permeate water, you're probably just throwing that water away, right?
Yeah, we do. We save a lot of it because we need a fair amount of it to actually wash the RO itself. You should never use just straight well water to wash your membranes, because you actually need water that's actually free of minerals.
Right.
Yeah. So we save a lot of it for that. But the rest of it, yes, goes outside.
So most of it you throw it away.
Yeah.
But you can also use that permeate water to put in your batteries for your car, let's say.
Possible. I know there's lots of also distilled water that we'll actually use for batteries and so on.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure about the permeate.
Yeah, I know, it depends how much mineral content there is in the water, but I know when I used to sell reverse osmosis water, it was good enough for batteries.
Okay.
The parts per million was only 1,
Okay.
and distilled water is usually 0. So it was very, very close. But anyways, that was the permeate water. That's the water I was selling. People would buy that to make their coffee, or some people they just like the mineralized water.
Exactly. Free of everything.
And my permeate water was a waste for me, but for you, this is what you keep. It's more. The sap is more concentrated.
Yeah, the permeate is also like an excess, a byproduct.
Yeah. So, so what were you saying earlier about the sap is how many percent?
Yesterday our sap coming in was 2.8%.
2.8%.
2% sugar.
Okay.
We've seen anything from 1.5 to 3.2 in the highest, but 2.8 is actually pretty good. And it's typical of a cold winter and a cold spring. Sap flows are very negligible, like small, but your sugar content is usually higher. So it seems like there's about the same amount of sugar, but it's just a different mechanism of translocation from the tree. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say an average of 2% sugar. So after you're done with the reverse osmosis, how much percent is it?
If we're actually drawing sap at 2, we'll be about 7.5, because we're taking about 70% of the water out, 72 or so. Because I know yesterday at 2.8, we were finishing up with a concentrate of about 8.5.
Okay, is there any possibility to finish with a concentrate of 10 or 15?
Oh, absolutely. You just max up the pressure and control your outflow of the posts, and you can concentrate on single pass up to 12. They make equipment now that will actually do a single pass up to 35 bricks. But when you get to 35 bricks, it really changes the game as far as evaporation goes. You would have to change your whole setup of evaporation, because your concentrate's only going to be on the evaporator for less than an hour. It's a very fast process, and to give flavor to syrup, they've altered the flue pans, very short flue pans for boiling quickly, and then a slow evaporation on a flat pan surface for the majority, for about 75% of the length of the evaporator, so that that's when it will give the flavor to your caramelization of your sugars.
Okay, so that's why you stop at 8%, is to give the maple syrup a better flavor.
Yes, yeah. We've only had an RO since for about 9 years now, and at first we were afraid to try it because we thought it would actually change the flavor of our syrup, but it didn't. But if you push the envelope and you go higher than 10%, you're definitely going to have to change your mechanism, your boiling process.
All right, Dan, so this is all maple syrup sap. It hasn't gone through the reverse osmosis yet?
Nope, this is sap that we collected yesterday from our pump stations. And it's actually going through the RO right now. And the concentrate is actually being plumbed up upstairs into our concentrate tanks, and we'll take you up there right now.
All right, so this is just 1 day of sap.
Yeah, this is a small day, because see, we collected about 8,000 liters of sap total on 8,000 taps.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
These are our concentrate tanks. This is what is actually coming out of the RO that we just saw a few minutes ago. And this will be about 8.5, 9% bricks to that's about our maximum.
Okay, when you say 8.5% bricks, what does brick mean?
Bricks is it's a term, is a scale to use to measure solids in liquids. It'll actually measure like the viscosity. And if I actually have syrup that gets really thick, bare minimum is 66% bricks. I shoot for 67. But let's say if you have something that gets away on you, that you'll finish with a 70 or so. It's very thick, and you'll see the crystals form in the bottom of a container over a little bit of time.
Oh, okay.
It's not bad as long as it's not opened. It's hot packed, but as soon as you open it, within weeks, you'd see a full liner of candy crystals on the bottom of your container.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I guess we're standing pretty much directly above your reverse osmosis system here right now.
Yes. We almost do everything in doubles. We like the idea of having 2 tanks. Maple sap is notorious for growing bacteria. So as soon as the tank is empty, that's the first thing we do. We'll actually wash it. Even if we're going non-stop all day, and this will actually go in, I can actually do about 700 gallons of concentrate here, which represents about 2,500 gallons of sap. But on a good day, you'll get 8,000 gallons of sap coming through the system. So I have to keep going, and every time when I do a batch, I will actually transfer one tank, I'll use it, and when this one gets full, I'll be concentrating in the other tank. And that gives me a break between between tanks to actually wash it. Even if it's only in there for 3-4 hours, it grows a film. It's what maple sap does.
Okay, that's why one time from a very, very small outfit, and my maple syrup went really weird and thick and...
Oh yeah, it's a challenge that every maple producer faces. Even ourselves here, when you get at the tail end of the season and things warm up, even if our sap pump stations are actually always cool and fresh, just the transportation of the sap in tubing, because we'll actually have 2 pump stations about 2,000 feet at each end of the property here, and sap will leave the other end at about 6-7 degrees, and it'll get here at about 15. So it warms up. It warms up in the black tubing in your pipe, even in blue pipe, in clear pipe. The sun will actually gets at it and raises the temperature up. So once it gets here, you have to process it right away. You cannot store sap or concentrate at the end of the season. It goes bad within 12 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. sorry.
Well-
You got to process it.
Well, I've been buying your maple syrup for many years now, and it never went bad on me. So
Well, we try to have a consistent product that's usually always the same. Of course, there's variances, early season, late season syrup, which is totally normal. But we shoot to have a quality product.
all right, so this is a smokestack here when he burns the wood to boil the sap.
Yeah, we're just directly above the evaporator.
We're
It doesn't get hot.
18 inches in diameter.
It's actually 24.
Oh, it's 24. Sorry.
24 inch pipe. The other ones are
Oh,
16 for the
you
other
got
ones are
3
steam.
stacks.
So those are for steam.
Oh, those 2 are for the steam, and this is for the fire jingle.
Yep.
All right, now we're going to the pump house.
It's unfortunate you won't see any sap flowing this morning because it went down to -10 last night. But throughout the 200 acres that we tap on, there's about 50 kilometers of little blue pipe and main line, and then about another 10 kilometers of wire that actually suspends all the main line.
Wow,
it was,
that's a lot of pipe.
It took us a while to set that up. We did it over, I think, 4 different years. But the answer to that is a lot better, not better, but it's a lot more productive than the buckets.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So,
We used to have 6,000 buckets to gather, and that would take us 2 days.
back-breaking work, eh?
Yeah, but it would never stop. It could take us 2 days to do the loop, and after the second day, well, your buckets are still full, so you got to keep going.
You start all over again.
Yeah, and the equipment we were using, of course, as a kid growing up, was the horses. But then in the 80s, we got into track muskeg carriers made by Bombardier. But those things were my age. And to keep machines like that running, you always needed 2 because you need a backup. And the problem was to get parts. So we would have had to change those 2 Bombardiers and to something more modern. And by the cost of just those machines was the cost of the tubing. And the bonus is that we didn't know at the time, but when we went to tubing, we almost doubled our production. Well, we did actually, because our average was about 0.45 liter per tap on buckets, and we're over a liter per tap on tubing now. So, and the other side of the coin is that you totally eliminated those track carriers at the worst time of the year. So no more soil erosion, no more compaction, no more cutting roots, and now we just use the snowshoe, the boot, and the 4-wheelers and the skidoos.
Well, that's much better.
Yes.
Now, does the tubing stay there year-round?
Yep, it stays up year-round.
Oh, wow.
At the end of season, we'll actually we'll wash our tubing using a solution of isopropyl alcohol, 70-30, 70 alcohol, 30 water. And we'll use about 45 milliliter per tap. It's always starting at the top end. You wash under vacuum, and as you clean your taps, you will actually take them out and cap them. So you always have some that actually stays in your drop lines and your small tubing, and it actually dissipates throughout the season and prevents any mold growth.
Wow, it's a pretty complicated process.
Yes, but it's efficient. And as far as washing tubing, the other option would be to push with water and chlorine. And I'm not fond of chlorine in plastic tubing. Plastic is also porous, and I've tasted syrups that I found chlorine in, and I did not like it, so I stayed away from chlorine.
I know exactly what you mean, because when I used to sell bottled water, my soap that I was using, I was making sure there was no chlorine in the soap.
Yes.
Because I know the chlorine, it goes in the plastic and then it stays there, and you can taste it after.
And there's also salts in the chlorine. And here we have a lot of little critters like squirrels, which love chewing tubing, especially if there's salt in it. So it eliminates that. No, it does not eliminate it, but it reduces it.
Reduces, yeah.
Yes. All right.
So this is a large tubing here, Dan. What is this one here? Why is it so large?
This one actually is my vacuum translocator from my vacuum pumps. I have a 7.5 horse vacuum pump that actually runs in the generator shack. Will actually do vacuum to 22 inches mercury, and I'll get about a 21. I get about a 1 inch difference between my pump and my extractor here. So follow me and I'll show you the extractor. This is a new unit to us. We had quite a bit of snow here in Northern Ontario this year, and we actually lost this building. It collapsed on us. I was too late in shoveling it by 1 day. I shoveled my generator, and the next morning when I came to shovel this one, it was flat on the ground.
Oh no.
So we lost the equipment that was in it, which was another extractor. But we found this one. Well, we ordered this one, and it came in, I think it was installed on the 16th of March, just in time for the season. This system is actually quite, I love the simplicity of it. It's just a single vessel. You put your vacuum on one vessel, and there's no fluctuation in the vacuum, even when you're evacuating the sap out of it. It's just a submersible pump that actually sits in the bottom, and there's 3 sensors. When it fills to about 80% or just above the outlet of the main lines, it actually will pump, and it will continuously pump until it's about 30% empty, about 30% remaining. And if I have 21 inches of vacuum, I will have 21 inches of vacuum at the end of my main line throughout the pumping cycle. My old extractor actually had a solenoid valve. It was a double chamber, and while it was evacuating the sap in the bottom, it would flip a solenoid and all the vacuum would be translocated to the top vessel. But in that 1 second as it happened, you'd always get a back flush of sap back to the saddle and back to the tree. The idea is to always keep your sap flow going one way, so that your tap hole at the tree does not recognize old sap. Old sap will actually be, it tells the tree to stop, to heal. So that tree has, that section of the tap hole actually wants to dry out. So by keeping the sap flow always going one way, you will actually extend your season right to the end, till you get into buddy sap. Then it's time to stop.
Wow, that's a pretty sophisticated machine.
It works. It might sound sophisticated, but it's so simple, and because it's just a single vessel and sensors.
Okay.
Yep. Ideally, an extractor like this, or all extractors, could be set up in a heated room where you can actually keep doing vacuum right up until your drop lines freeze. All of our pump houses have stayed open like this because two other pump houses actually have tanks installed in them, and we want to keep them open to keep the sap cooler and fresh until we're ready to push it through.
Okay, so as we can see, there's no sap in there right now because it's almost like -10. We're still early in the morning, so this afternoon it's going to be operational, right?
Yep. What I could do, actually, I could just turn this on automatic and open the valves, and when sap starts to flow, it'll automatically, and I'll be in the pump house and I'll see sap start to happen. Then I'd have to come back here and shut half the valves, activate the vacuum, and give it a minute, and then open the rest of the valves. Because if I do it all with all the valves open, I would actually flood the vessel.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay.
and my moisture trap will get filled up, and problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the floor is all wet here, Dan. What are they doing?
Well, they just washed up the pans that we finished up with yesterday. Just our finishing pans. Like when you first showed up, I think we had just completed the change, and it just washes all of the scale that actually forms on the bottom, the mineralization. That's why you actually have to change pans every 30-35 gallons, because if you don't, you get too much niter buildup on the bottom of your pan, and your syrup will scorch. it'll flake, and you'll end up with little black spots on your pan, and also darker, stronger tasting syrup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite the fire chamber.
I think there's about 40 inches of that you can actually throw lumber on, firewood on. But we'll only fire, like we only use 24-inch wood, but I try to stagger it throughout the full length of the fire chamber. The fire's only been on for about 5 minutes now. We've got to do this.
Oh, that's...
Now that it's fully engulfed, we can actually give it more air underneath the base. Very little air at first, but now I'm going to give it full air.
Now you're going to give it more air?
Full air, yeah, but not until the door closes. You won't like it if I do that when you go.
I'm not going to like it. All right, I'll take your word for it. There's quite a nice aroma in here.
It's starting.
It smells like maple syrup.
And it'll be coming soon. This will be our first drop. First batch after you get a chain of the mats. So it takes me a while to actually get the density setting right. So I always start high and I'll work it down if I have to. Boiling point is quite high today, 211.6. So I've got it set like I think 9 degrees over. Just to make sure that my first drop is actually thick enough and the density is high enough. I can always bring it down, but it's tough to bring it up because then I gotta really concentrate the rest of the syrup to mix in with the syrup that's not quite ready, and that's not how I like to do things. I prefer starting thick and going backwards.
Okay, so where did you say it's good? The sap is going to drop? Where is that?
Right here. This is actually just a little ball valve.
Okay.
And it's actually, I got a temperature probe inside the pan here.
Yeah.
And that's what you see, the readings that you see on the little apparatus on the board there. That's the actual temperature of the pan.
Okay.
Once it reaches the setting, it'll hold it, and it holds it, and it'll go above, then it'll actually start to open. The ball valve will open. And I'll limit the draw, look at that. I'll limit the volume with this valve here so that it doesn't all gush out. Because then I get a lot of mixing. So I just keep this valve open at about 1/3. And if I think it looks a little bit thin, I will actually slow it down. But I need at least a couple gallons in my syrup tank here to do a test on it.
That's just to do a test?
Yeah.
Okay. What happens with the rest of it? Do you waste that or?
No, it's actually, according to the setting, it should be syrup now.
Okay.
Yeah. Give it a couple of minutes, and it's a hydrotherm. It's a hybrid between a hydrometer and a thermometer. The thicker the syrup, the higher up it floats. And it's also will calibrate with the temperature of the liquid. There's lots of other hydrometers that will work, but they're very temperature specific. This one will actually work with hot or cold syrup. Yeah, see, that's about a 67.2, which is where I want to be. 67 is what I shoot for.
Okay.
66 is the minimum. And if I go thicker, then yes, it's thicker, but I'm also giving away sugar because it's heavier, and which is where you'll get producers that do a lot of sell in bulk by the barrel. They're paid by the pound. Packers that actually buy it will actually blend it, and if they actually have syrup that's under density, they will actually mix it with the thicker, and they can actually have a product that they can put on a shelf.
Okay.
And even if they have a batch of 68 or 67 and change, they can, before they pack it, they will heat it because it's got to be hot packed, and they will add distilled water to cut it to 66%, which is the minimum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So nothing is lost. Yeah.
So you work 7 days a week during the season?
Yes.
How many hours a day do you work?
Oh, anywhere from 12 on a good day to 22 on a bad day.
So
I shouldn't say bad day, on a better day.
on a better day.
Yeah.
So once it's all over, do you sleep for like 2 days straight, or?
We acclimatize.
Yeah,
Yeah, we slow down.
for sure.
I mentioned to you that the RO is like our MVP number 2. This is our MVP number 1.
That's MVP number 1.
Yes, she carries the load for cooking and housekeeping here.
Oh wow, it
Yeah.
smells really good here. What are you cooking today?
There's a pork loin in the oven. There's a beef barley soup on the go. And they're going to be served tomato macaroni and cheese instead of potatoes tonight.
So you're the cook for the work crew here.
I am.
So Dan, you mentioned earlier that on a good day you might be working 22 hours a day.
It has, oh yes.
And you're in the middle of the bush here, so after to go, do you go home and sleep, or do you sleep
This
here?
is home. This is home for us during the run.
So you stay here the whole time in the bush?
I do go out. I do go out when between runs, when we have moderate sap flows, and to bring syrup out and so on. And my wife Tracy is also MVP number 1. She keeps things looked after at home as far as paperwork, organization, and signing of tours and so on. So it's not something that a person can say I'm going to do by myself. It's impossible. No,
It's way too much work.
Oh yeah, you got to surround yourself with good people and be able to delegate and be there to work when the workload comes.
So you gotta show me where you sleep?
By all means, you're gonna turn around. You're gonna walk that way. That's our.
Here, after you.
By all means, it's not fancy.
It's like a
Yeah,
hunt camp.
it is our hunt camp.
But it's temporary.
Well, yeah, and we spend probably like only a quarter of our time in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, but it served us well. I grew up as a kid coming to this camp, and this camp here, this section was new. Before I was 10 years old, there used to be another old log cabin directly in front of the door here, and it had been built by the Beaulieus and had been here since 1928. But I remember as a kid, like coming here with the uncles, and they'd make sure that our boots and our mitts were hung up to dry at night, and in the morning, off to the bush we'd go again.
So you're roughing it up for what, 6 weeks, or?
Yes.
About that.
So, sometimes it's 2.5 months, but we only stay here like full time when the sap is running, like which is normally anywhere about a month.
A month, okay.
Yeah.
So I see there's what, 5 beds in here?
There is. Well, our kids come in also on the weekends. They're at school now, we fill the camp for the weekends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So is there like problems with snoring?
Yes, but we have a remedy.
Earplugs.
There you go. Our kids have gotten accustomed to earplugs.
Very nice. Well,
Fair enough.
it's just a way of life.
It is. It is.
Yeah. And like you say, you're roughing it for 4 to 6 weeks, and
Yep.
then you go home and have a luxurious house. You live more in luxury.
Live more in luxury. Yes, with
You
running
don't-
water.
You don't have to go outside when you go to the washroom.
No, no, but that's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
So what is this machine here, Dan?
All it is a water jacket tank. All of our syrup that will come on this side of the filter press on the evaporator room will actually be plumbed into here. So once it's actually filtered, it never sees open air again. It'll actually be reheated in here. It will be maintained between 160 and 180, and it'll be rebottled into consumer containers anywhere from 100 ml up to a 4 liter. And once we have about a third of our season done, we'll actually start the barrel syrup. We'll actually hot pack 32-gallon barrels in stainless barrels where we will actually store them at home, and as we need it, we'll warm them up. I have another machine like that at home, and we reheat the syrup and repack it hot. The idea is not to have any retail containers, especially of the smaller sizes, more than 2 months ahead of time.
Okay, so you can bottle throughout the year.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. How many gallons of maple syrup do you produce per season?
Our average season would be about 2,000, just above 2,000 gallons would be a normal, would be our average. We produce up to 3,000, and we've also produced 1,000, so.
Depends on a year.
Correct. If you take our top season out and our bottom season out, we're looking at about a 2,000, 2,100 gallon average.
And who do you sell all this maple syrup to?
Throughout northeastern Ontario here, the majority of it is actually right from farm gate sales, but we do market a little bit wholesale through about 20, 25 different outlets throughout northeastern, all the way up to Kapuskasing. But majority of it is quite local around Sudbury, North Bay, West Nipissing.
Okay, so to the stores, do you deliver that yourself?
We do. We'll have a monthly delivery where we'll do a loop, and either we'll start up on the east side and finish up on the west side, and we keep the shelves stocked that way.
So what kind of truck do you need for that?
A Subaru.
A Subaru, really? So you
Yeah.
don't drive around like a 3-ton truck or nothing like that?
No. See, the majority of it will be, but we will fill the car. Anywhere from 30 to 50 gallons. That's all in different containers, of course. And we also do. We also have honeybees. So at the same time, those stores will usually carry honey and maple syrup.
Yes, your honey is tastes very good as well.
Well, we've had a lot of support from the local people, and it's showed up quite well.
Well, I'm glad that you can deliver your maple syrup with a car, because let me tell you, a commercial truck is very expensive.
They are. Well, I also have a commercial trailer for my pickup, and yes, I know the costs of running a commercial vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks then.
You're welcome.